well, let's start talking about what we have learned. What we have learned from 100% virtual leasing. It's been about 12 weeks now that many of us have been in that mode. And, I think we were all kind of really, as the student housing industry compared to the rest of multifamily, we were, in a situation where we were really very well prepared for it. One, because our residents are used to doing more things online, and of course they're used to shopping at all hours outside of our normal office hours. But moving to 100% virtual, I think, created still a lot of learning curves for folks. And now that we've kind of come through that, I wanted to put a group of folks together to talk about what we've learned. So joining me today, hopefully everybody's been able to join in. I just got a message that Willie may be having some issues, so I may reach out to him. But our co-host, Greta Dare, with Fetch Marketing, is here to join us. Greta?
Hi.
And then we also have Amelia Palmer with, and Amelia, I probably just completely, that's what it sounds like in the South when someone says your last name, by the way. I'll just put it that way. And then Varun Maiden with Lease Magnets out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excited to be here.
Right.
Thanks, Wes.
All right. And Willie, do we have you on?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yay!
Fantastic.
I'm back. Oh, man, I feel like I got demoted, Wes. I didn't like it.
Right.
So,
you know how many people I had to problem solve and do tech support for? That's like,
I love it. I
missed the majority of the last panel. I was just over here like solving everything. It was tough.
So guys, let's
let's go to leasing.
Yeah. We got a webinar going on here. So
yeah. Hi, sorry.
So let's talk about the touring part of it. What touring options are really available? And Willie and Greta, I'm gonna go to you guys with this. If you could jump in.
So we have, there's quite a few, and we've seen quite a few, or at least on Fetch's side, because we do stalk everybody all online, especially on Instagram. And so we've seen a few great examples of them. We see the Facebook tours or not the Facebook tours, we see the FaceTime tours or just the video on demand tours. There's also the fun one, which are TikTok tours. And so these typically you see done video that have already been pre-recorded. Those ones are done on social media. They're saved on social media. They do serve a purpose. And then you also have the professionally done Matterport tours. Those are the 3D scan tours, which we talked about on one of the previous webinars and leasing panels that we did before. And I feel like I'm missing one. Am I missing one?
I think you nailed a lot of the virtual tours, but we can't discount the the old traditional tried and true in-person tours, and then your own phone
those aren't virtual. It's not distance leasing. You can't distance lease in person.
Hey.
So there's really this synchronous type where it does kind of replace that in-place tour. And yes, Willie, we know that you've been breaking the law and doing.
We're getting there.
In person.
Put on your mask. 6 feet.
And then you've got this more asynchronous where it's stuck on your website or stuck on your social media where people can kind of go and get it whenever they want to.
Yes.
Let's talk about the results between those two types. What are you guys hearing and seeing and experiencing yourselves as far as which one has more impact? Is there anything measurable that you've been able to do between the two? Greta, I'll start with you on that one.
So, I mean, first, starting with results, you have to kind of look at which one serves their purpose, right? So you have to take a look at the ones on social media. Those ones are going to be kind of capturing your audience in completely different ways. And they're going to be looking at people that are going to be looking at those are going to be the prospects that are coming onto social media, and they're kind of getting an idea of what your property is, right? And then with the other ones, the asynchronous ones that you're talking about, those ones we're going to see a huge uptick. And I know that Forrest reported on that. One of the things that they said was that as of December last year, there were 250 on average for all of their properties that were getting views. And then once COVID really kicked into high gear, they were looking at over 300 views. So you're seeing a lot higher results of the interactions with those types of tours. So it's really a matter of the type of tour that you're going to be giving and who's going to be interacting with those types of things, and where there was like what it is that people are going after when they're going after those types of tours.
Absolutely. And I think it's all dependent on what you identify as like effectiveness, right? Like, we can get a ton of views and looking at those tours like through the asynchronous medium, but I think when it turns into converting those into actual leases, we're going to get a lot more from the synchronous, right? Those FaceTime tours where we can actually, I'm just a firm believer that experience matters. You're going to hear that a lot in everything that I'm talking about, right? So when I can get you on FaceTime and I can figure out exactly what you're looking for, and I can paint the picture of your experience perspective or from a Skype perspective or Zoom, any of the synchronous methods, I feel like it can go a long way, and you can actually convert those into leasing right then and there a lot.
So I think that that's all right. I think that that's sometimes the case. I think that in a perfect world, yes, that's the case, where the synchronous tour situation where you are having a FaceTime tour with your prospect, yes, in a perfect world with a perfectly trained Willie Butler, you are going to have a more likely closed upon tour prospect. Like that's yes. When you or I are on site, we're going to get in there. We're going to have that face-to-face just like we would in an actual in-person tour situation. However, some of the best trained companies that are out there still cannot execute that level of results. And we know this factually. So the reality is that if you aren't going to see that, which you will not, because the reality is that the majority of the people that are out there that are going to be giving those FaceTime tours are going to be your CAs, and those people's top priority at your property is not ever going to be your property. It's going to be school, followed by their social life and studies. That's it. Your job, your property is generally not going to be their top priority in life. Therefore, and actually I'll back up, what we actually found, and Lease Magnets can actually back me up on this. Yep, you're nodding because you know what I'm about to say. More often than not, and I believe it's 70% of all people who are actually out there touring and shopping for apartments, 70% of them are looking when your properties are closed. What is it, 5 o'clock at night and then 3 o'clock in the morning? So you're telling me that those experiences can still be created on FaceTime tours? No. So what has to be done is that you have to create an experience that can sell your property without a human interaction, because first off, those humans may not be available, as we've already found, because statistics research has proven that that's not going to happen. And second, you may not even be available. You're not going to be there. And the person who answers the phone or takes that tour may not be trained properly or even care enough to actually close on that sale. So you need to make sure your social media is on point, your website's good. And while we're at it, they can actually find that tour.
I love it. First and foremost, Wes, I know why you were so excited about this this conversation now, because Greta's really passionate.
Listen.
She got me on the edge of my seat now, right?
Well, listen, it reminded me earlier when Adam said that, you know, they've got this deal with Red Bull. I told myself this morning when I was coming in, I've got to get a Red Bull because I just don't think I can make it through this session without a Red Bull.
I'm just saying.
And I forgot.
No, and without going too crazy on this segment, again, I agree with you.
That's good. That's a good idea.
In some capacity. I would say I wouldn't put the term factually on everything, because factually I've done it and my team has done it with Empower, and we have been crushing it. And I would say that, what was that?
Statistically,
okay, that's a little bit better, right? But no, so I think you're right. Availability is the best ability. And yes, when your offices are closing, at 5 o'clock, you're right. You are limiting yourself, right? You're cutting yourself off at the knees, because let's be realistic. Life happens still, like between 9 and 5, right? And a lot of guarantors are working the same hours that we're working. So if our offices are closing at that time, yes, absolutely, we're not going to be available to be on the phones with these guys doing FaceTime tours all the time, right? But that's where, like, that's one of the value propositions of our company, Empower Property Management Consulting, right? We're going to be there after hours. We're going to be there accepting those phone calls. We're going to be present, giving those FaceTime tours. I mean, up until 10 o'clock p.m. sometimes, right? So we are actually going the extra mile. And I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, there's never traffic along the extra mile, because few there are willing to go above and beyond and do the extra work. So as much as we are going above and beyond to make our social media amazing and make our digital presence amazing, we also need to go above and beyond and train our teams to be able to give those excellent virtual tours so that they can close on those deals, right? So we can't just discount the fact that it's only going to be a CA doing it. We need to, as property managers, we need to invest in those teams.
Absolutely.
Invest in those people so that they can give those excellent tours. I don't think we should just give them credit or like discount them because they're community assistants. These are salespeople. No. And leasing is very much so a sales job, right? And we have to train them to be able to execute on every single lease, every single tour. And I know you said the human can't always be there, but the most effective aspect of any leasing, whenever I'm thinking of leasing anything, marketing, whatever it is, it's always the human component of it that's going to be the most effective. And if you take the human out of it, then how are you going to paint the picture of that person living in that environment, right? You can't sell a product to something that you don't know. And that's where the rapport building comes in. You have to build rapport with the person so that you can actually execute that sale. Otherwise, it's just showing a soft serve or a soft close cabinet and a high efficiency Whirlpool appliance, right? Where's the value proposition behind that, right? Besides, your amenity package. I'm dealing with these brand new properties that are right across the street from these value add properties. $200 delta is going to me if you can spend a month. We both have the same Whirlpool appliances. Like, what's the difference, right? You have to be able to make it make sense to that person.
Completely agreed. Wes, is there any chance we could jump in here in this discussion real quick? In this back and forth, in this volleyball. And Wes, could you allow us to share screen just real quick? There's a piece of data that I think would be valuable to this conversation. But just jumping back, I think Greta and Willie, we absolutely love your discussion, and we think there might be a little role for an intermediator here, because honestly, amazing asynchronous experiences, amazing digital experiences end up turning into more synchronous experiences, more in-person tours. What we see is basically 30% of all your asynchronous experiences turn into actual leads and actual in-person tours. And so one of our goals, Willie, has all been about putting that human into the virtual tour outside of business hours, right? And I think that, Wes, is the screen share enabled?
Yeah, you should have.
Yes, amazing. And so just one piece of data that I think would be valuable here, and this will save a little bit for later, but the fact is what Greta was saying is absolutely true. When it comes to student housing, and this is also the multifamily graph, but what we see is in student housing, there's actually a huge spike of traffic that occurs, not only, at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, but like Greta was saying, at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and 3 a.m. And who's putting the human back in those hours, right? And it's few people, but if you have great asynchronous experiences, you can lead them into great synchronous in-person tours.
Absolutely. And I think there's a difference between saying no virtual tours and what's most effective in signing a lease, right? I'm not saying don't have virtual tours, right? That's like saying, hey, when I'm in the weight room, I don't need a spotter to maximize my workout. No, the spotter is supplemental. It's absolutely amazing. And it's only going to make me really maximize the amount of muscle that I'm going to build. I'm not saying take the virtual tours off, because I'm not signing a lease at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm very passionate about what I do, but I like my sleep too, right? So with that being said, I think virtual tours are completely invaluable. But if you're asking me what's going to close the lease faster and what's going to be most effective from taking you from, the idea to actual lease, that's going to be me, the human, because people don't buy products, they buy people. And that's where we win.
So I mean, honestly, what was it? 2 years ago, I was at LeaseCon, and Willie, I made your case for you. I presented research after research after research, because that was also the concept and idea that I was brought on, because I was raised inside of Equity Residential, right? That was the leasing program that I was brought into. And at the time, Equity Residential was the largest property management company publicly traded in the country. And they had the best training company. Shout out to Steve Wunsch, who is the love of my life in the world of training. That was our world. But the reality is we've also shifted, and my whole heart. But I mean, that's the reality, is that we are shifting away from it, and we have us as millennials, right? And then next up we have Gen Z. We have to be able to look at it. And that was why I started shouting about it about 7 or 8 years ago, that if you can't look at your online landscape, and that landscape cannot paint a whole picture and a whole package of your community, and create that imagery, create that experience, and allow your prospect, parent, and guarantor to be able to virtually step inside of it and experience it like an actual landscape, like here we are, Ready Player One, then you are about to step into a world of fail, because the reality is we are leaving that behind.
But that's the thing though, right? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I agree. I agree with everything really both of you are saying, but we are definitely moving towards, more and more of there not being a human connection. That's not to say that it's ever going to go completely away.
Lack of value.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to go completely away, but let's jump into that next section, which is what's missing with that. And before we even talk about the synchronous type, because I think there's a lot of things there that well, now let's just put it all together. A couple of the things that I wrote down as far as what it's missing is that spatial awareness. How close is the campus to, or how close is the property to campus, and other things within that community. You can stand from a rooftop if you're in a high rise in downtown Atlanta and kind of show everybody everything, or show the viewer where everything's at, but not if you're in a cottage product in Fayetteville, Arkansas, that doesn't work. So I think that's a big thing, and I'm interested in seeing how we're going to be able to connect, be it asynchronous or asynchronous. I think asynchronous with, I think Campus Apartments does a really good job of it, and I think they use Euphorus for it. But they start with the kind of, as far as the fly through kind of sizzle reel that they do, where they're starting from kind of the map view, the Google map view, right, and fly into where the property is at. I think that does a great job. Anything else that you guys are seeing that's kind of overcoming that?
I mean, really, I think that's it. There's different ways that people are showing the distance to campus, the distance to the local social locations. And they do the drive-bys, they do the fly-throughs, just like you said, but there's they post it on social media where they're driving from the property to it, because you want to be able to hit as many locations as possible, right? You don't want to just have it on your website or something like that. You want to have it on social media, and you want to be able to, that's the biggest thing with all of this different type of virtual existence, is that you don't want to just show it one way. You want to make it as relatable as possible in a bunch of different ways. So you want to have it virtually done, and you want to have it personally done. So you want to have a human that's going to drive to actual, or walk to the actual place, have it in your highlights, have it in your stories, and then also have it virtually flown through as well, because they all communicate differently to the different types of people that you will be communicating to. And I think that's kind of important, because we all need to see things and understand things and have things said to us differently. And that's important to understand when you are doing things online and creating a picture and experience online.
And I will say, I think one of the biggest things that's missing right now, that, where you can go in person, right? You go to the leasing office, the leasing consultant's ready to show you around. It's very easy. What that tour experience is going to be like. The expectations are very different online, because what we found is that these tours are actually very difficult to actually discover and fall upon. You know, a lot of these websites will have things like Matterports, they'll have different tour experiences on their website, but they'll be very difficult. You'll have to click on the floor plans page, and then you have to click 3 or 4 down, and then you have to click play on the Matterport tour, and that takes another 5 seconds to load, right? And by that time, the student has already spent 40 seconds on the website, and by that time, they've already considered and made their first impression and decided, okay, this is too hard for me, right? You look at any average group of 4 people who are signing a lease as friends or as roommates, only one of them is going to do the research anyways, right? And that one person already has such a big onus on themselves to do all the research. So if that one person is taking it upon themselves to do that, it needs to be as easy as possible to find that. And yes, there are a lot of apartments posting great things on social media, fantastic. But sometimes the problem is what we see, what students are following these websites or following these apartments on social media, right? Where they're going, they might be going to these third-party listing sites first or Googling direct search. And the number one place that they end up on is the website. So the question that we ask ourselves is always, how can we make it as easy as possible to bring that touring experience on the website front and center itself?
Absolutely. That was something that was one of the biggest things that we noticed, is that it's, again, just to reiterate, it is incredibly difficult to get to some people's virtual tours on the website. That needs to be reiterated. It needs to be very quick, simple, and easy to find, because people are not going to go searching all over the websites. And if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, like the 70 percentile that we just showed, and they have to go looking all over the place to find that website, they're going to walk away, or they're not going to find it, or they're going to get frustrated. And then if it's their parents that's going to look for it, because they're the ones that are doing the research, they're definitely not going to go clicking all over the place looking for it, because they're just going to get frustrated and walk away.
Yeah, I'll say, and Emilio, I hope that you have a slot up of your product. We can get to that in just a minute. But one of the things that, in just preparing for this, going over, and I mean, I can call names because I know they're on, I know their companies are on here, but the fact that in an age, or not an age, but in a time when everyone is having to just go to a property's website in order to get to do a virtual tour, the fact that virtual tour is hidden in a gallery somewhere, it just blows my mind. I don't understand why so many of these companies have not put that so front and center. But that's something that's got to be fixed. And I think it's, again, as we're moving further into the future and we're going further and further away from that personal touch, or that face-to-face touch, I think that's even more important. And I think your product does a good job of balancing all that. But we'll get to that in just a second.
And not even just on the website, right? Like embedded in the website. I've, reviewed a few clients that we just took on, and essentially I would click on their website, click a video, and it takes me to YouTube, further taking me away from their webpage, right? Which is, that's clearly a red flag in itself, right? Like, now I'm completely off your page. I'm no longer thinking about you. Now I'm looking at some motivational video, right? Because that's what's on my YouTube.
This is you.
So, right. So just piggybacking on everything that you said, Wes.
Yeah, unfortunately, if it's on a computer at my house, it ends up going to Spider-Man videos or Barbie videos or hashtag sisters or whatever. So anyway, but so the next thing that, in this thing of what's missing, I feel like another thing, and I don't know how we're going to overcome this, but I've seen these tours happening, be it either FaceTime or watching someone look at that sizzle reel, or looking at a Matterport tour, even when they've got the goggles on and they're looking around. There seems to be this thing of, I'm trying to imagine what it would be like if I was there. Like, I think when people go to a model unit, it's pretty easy for them to, take that experience and say, oh, okay, I could put my computer over here. I could do, my makeup desk over here or whatever. How do we, I mean, the augmented reality has been in place for a while. We used to do this with floor plans as far as being able to put the furniture, where they wanted. I'm not seeing any of that. Is that the right answer, or are you seeing anybody that's doing something that's kind of combating that, so people can, think a little bit more about and spur that imagination, so that they're really making it their own as they're looking at it?
So I gotta say, one of the biggest things when we were putting together models anywhere and everywhere, the base concept was always creating the life that our ideal resident wanted to live inside of the model, right? That's the purpose of the model. So it was that it touched all the senses and it created their ideal life. When the person walks into the model, yes, they will get to the point that they are starting to imagine where their stuff will go. But especially in students, that isn't so much of a concern as it is in multifamily. In conventional, we really had to think about that, right? Because you're dealing with a big open canvas of space. And so they have to think about, is my couch going to fit here? And sometimes in student, we do have some empty unit apartments, but the majority of us are furnished in the majority of our properties. So in student, you're walking in and really what you're doing, because this is their first apartment and they're very excited about it. And so when they're going through, you are wanting them to look at it and see that space and have it look like their ideal experience and their ideal first home or their ideal first bedroom. That's actually going to be their first thought above, where's my laptop going to go? Because they're bringing a laptop, not a whole computer or PC, They're not bringing their bed. They're not bringing any furniture. All they're going to do is decorate a little bit. So I don't think that they necessarily have that thought go through their head as much as we think that they're going to. And if it is an unfurnished unit, then they might take that into consideration. But if they're looking at a furnished unit, they can actually have that spatial awareness within the unit based off of the furniture that we've placed in there. So I think the focus needs to be on ensuring that you're working with a company that can properly execute the way that the interior is going to look, and an interior designer that can properly execute the look and feel that your ideal base customer, their lifestyle should be inside that apartment. And those should be your number one and number two focuses. So slightly
Gotcha.
different answer, but there's a reason for it, if that makes sense.
So there was a lot more that I wanted to cover in this, but we're not going to have the time, and I want to get over to kind of the last question with the lease magnets, guys. So I think what I'll just go ahead and tease everybody now. I think we need to probably get together tomorrow and record some of the extra stuff that we wanted to go over. Scheduling a FaceTime tour. I've seen everybody put this, put a scheduler on their, or most companies put some type of scheduler on their website. Big props to Campus Advantage. I think you guys have got the best one that I've seen yet. But there's some things there that I feel like, is missing that we should talk about. And then the other thing is kind of the big LinkedIn debate or argument that Willie flared up with telling a story about removing rates from his website. And so I think we need to get into that, but that's going to be another one that I will definitely need Red Bull for. And then I want to get into the administrative processes as well. So just a little teaser now, we'll come back and record that, put it in a podcast, but we'll do it on Zoom so we can also include it on the Feed Loop platform as well as on YouTube. But let's really quick, I want to talk about how do we make this better? And I had the guys from Lease Magnets reach out to me several weeks ago, and as I was looking at their product, it was like, this builds so many bridges between what I've seen missing and where I think we need to go. So guys, if you're still there and if you want to share your screen, I don't know if there's a website that you want to show or how you want to move forward with that. But I really wanted to see, what was it that you saw missing in that experience, and how were you guys able to come to the answers or come with some answers to that?
Look, Wes, it's been an absolute privilege working with you and getting to know you and work with you on all these fields. And I'm so glad we could resonate on many of these ideas. So what we're thinking is, you know, Willie and Greta, they hit on so many of the things that I think make our product something that we really believe in, can help a lot of different apartments and student housing apartments. Wes, if it's all right, we'd just love to kind of jump right in and show some of our audience and panelists and
Yeah,
audience
go for it.
product. Awesome. So you guys honestly went through a lot of slides, and honestly, Wes, this is a side note. I think this totally could be like a part 2 for this conversation. Honestly, I feel like this conversation is so rich.
I got some more. Got some more heat for you guys.
Yeah. And so, Varun, I'm going to kind of go to the George website, and then I'd love for you to kind of talk through it. And this is one of our first case studies and clients, and we go way back with the guy who's giving this tour. So, Varun, would you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I want to highlight 2 big insights that we talked about, kind of going through the problems that we mentioned before with current virtual tour options, right? So one of the biggest insights was the positioning, right? How easy is it to actually access these tours themselves? And you can see, we pulled up a screenshot of a website right now, and you can see that in order to go to the actual tour option that's available on their website, you have to kind of go to their floor plans, gallery, and then it's hidden. And if you go to the next slide, you can see it's on this Calendly where you have to schedule this tour itself, right? And obviously that we had the conversation about the scheduling concept of outside of business hours as well. And then if you go to slide 4, we can also see, you know, a lot of different apartment websites. You'll have what Wes was mentioning. You have to click on the photo gallery and then another side tab, and then it has to load, and then you have to scroll all the way down to access the virtual tour. Now, that was the kind of fundamental concept of why we decided our first reason to put our virtual tour front and center on the website itself. Now, Moy, if you want to kind of talk about the
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the second insights I think that's equally relevant is it's not that your photo gallery doesn't work. It's not that your Matterport tour doesn't work or scheduling works. It's just that basically your positioning reduces the chances of them actually finding those items, and ends up like your FaceTime tours, only 2% of people approximately use the tool. 15% to 25% of people end up coming to your photo gallery. And so it's just how do we bring those 2 experiences like those back to the front and center as soon as you're on the website. Then number 2 is how do you make sure that your availability, you can have that same touring experience outside of business hours. What we've noticed is a spike that occurs you know, after business hours, and that's being, you know, generous with the 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. time. That's 68 to 70% of people, whether you're doing student housing or multifamily, end up trying to take these virtual tours online. And through our product, we are seeing this is exactly when people start taking these virtual tours the most is right after those business hours are starting almost immediately. And yeah, go ahead.
Bump in here. And the third insight I think that's very important is what Willie was mentioning earlier, right? The human component. And that's the most important piece that we wanted to bring front and center. It's not just about the positioning. It's not just about the design. It's not about the aesthetic. It's the fact that right now, a Matterport doesn't have the Willie Butlers of the world selling that HD nook and cranny, the corner of that apartment that they're able to see. They can't see that cabinet. They can see the cabinet perfectly HD, but they don't hear the voice of the Willie Butler actually talking about that cabinet, right? So we thought,
yeah, I think Matterport is really, it's not for introducing their product. It really goes back to what I said earlier about, you know, answering that imagination piece of it. You know, if I've got someone that's kind of guiding me through that process, and then I may go back and think, okay, well, what did that bedroom configuration look like again? And then be able to go to the Matterport and kind of spend some time really staring at it. So I think even the way you line that up, even if it's in a gallery, like line up, you know, the guided tour before you actually do the Matterport tour, I think is huge. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you absolutely nailed it. And I think these are things we recommend all of our, you know, people we're working with, where we recommend them introducing some of these principles to the website. And after encouraging them enough, and we started basically, you know, the way we started, been in this industry for a few years now, but you know, after encouraging enough and not enough apartments actually end up to take direct action on the advice, whether it be using video, whether it be bringing things more up in front, we decided to kind of build a tool for this industry. And so we started like a lot of other prop tech companies. We started with the chatbot, and then we started with adding some social proof. But I think the product we want to show you today is what is a component of using those different video tour products into one specific experience on your website as soon as you to introduce you to the property in a very personable way. And then Rune, do you want to talk a little bit more about this, please?
Yeah, we just want to do a quick walkthrough here. So Moy, if you could click on the bottom left of the Take a Virtual Tour widget, and you can see that circle that's purple. Obviously, that's customizable to any branding of the website itself. And then I'm not sure if we'll be able to hear the audio here. I don't think we can hear it. That's okay. But basically, this leasing manager is saying, hi, my name is Jim. Thank you guys so much for coming to the George. I can't wait to show you guys all around today. And so it's kind of that literally the introduction that you would get right as you walk into an in-person leasing office. So Muli, if we could go ahead and click studio next.
Absolutely.
And now what he's going to say is, okay, great. Can't wait to show you around. Let's go. Let's get right into it. So he unlocks the door and he walks in, and now he starts showing the floor plan around, right? He's going to go to the bathroom. He's going to show around the cabinets. He's going to show around the room. And you kind of get the concept here of you're literally getting the point of view. And sometimes this guy's blocking the view a little bit. We're working on our video skills here. But that being said, you know, it's literally that perspective of when you would go in person and really get that tour. So let's try maybe amenities next. And let's go with the theater. That's the favorite, the crowd favorite always. And then again, legitimately you're walking in, it's that point of view exactly as if you were there and you're kind of getting that feel.
And there's always room to kind of make and add your leasing team's personality to the video. That same personality that, you know, to make these video experiences fun, right? Whether it be, and this can be like a bonding event, etc. But basically you can see this is, again, just streaming multiple things at the same time. But this is just the leasing team having fun with the video tour. And you can kind of create awesome moments. Get back tour. You can create interesting moments throughout your video tour that you could only create in person. And then Rune, do you want to talk about how that about the wrap up my tour and some of the statistics?
Right. So basically the biggest concept we're going to emphasize here, right? Video, virtual, all great, right? Great to give that experience. But how can we turn that experience into actual leads, into actual conversions? And that's what we do is simultaneously make this a lead capturing tool. So Moya, let's go ahead and claim that $250 application fee waiver. So you can see exactly, we turn this into a lead capture form where automatically you can see it's suggest based on Moya's Chrome history and stuff. You can see that it automatically puts in these fields of name, email, and phone number. So legitimately it takes less than 5 seconds for this person to claim whatever offer that the apartment has, or if they wanted to ask a question or anything else like that. And now in Amuli's inbox, in literally 5 seconds, he's going to get an email saying, thank you so much for completing our video tour. You know, here's your $250 application fee waiver. So with that said, the results, right? We talked a lot about the concept of the positioning. So how does the positioning actually affect the results? This positioning actually allows over 1/3 of the visitors to take the video tour online, whereas only 2% of people actually schedule FaceTime visitors or FaceTime tours and then either bounce off the website or do something else. We get that positioning, and that enables almost 1/3 of the website visitors to take the tour itself. Now, the second part I want to emphasize is how many of these people turn into leads, right? So right now we see the average apartment site with their contact us form or their current chatbot, which I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of. And that average conversion number is 5%, right? 5% of the people who are coming to your current site are submitting their name, phone, and email. Right now with our tools, we're seeing that number triple, right? 15% of the people who are coming to our sites are submitting their name, email, and phone number. And why is that so valuable? That percentage of leads that we're converting from this video tour are qualified leads. They're not just people who are like, oh, can you remind me of the pricing of the 2-bedroom floor plan? Can you tell me what the address of this property is, right? They're not people who are that early in the process. They're people who have already seen most of your property. And that's why we see 70% of these video tour leads converting into leases.
Right. And just jumping on to what Varun said, you know, at the end of the day, these people don't just become names and numbers in your system once they feed into your Entrada system or whatever you might be using. You actually see so much more detailed information to help the Willies and the Gretas of the world to be able to close these leases even better than they would without this data. And this is just with the normal lead data. What they don't realize is they're also giving you interesting data about what they're interested in by the time they give you their information. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to drop a link to all the panelists and attendees where you can book a demo. I know some of the visitors have been checking out our website already. Shout out to Enclave at Clemson. So if you want to kind of book a demo right now on the leasegampmagnus.com website that we just sent you /book-demo, we'd love to talk with you. But what we would love to do is kind of turn this back around on our fellow panelists, Wes, Willie, Greta. What do you guys think?
I mean, you know what I think. I mean, it's I've loved it. You know, one of the properties I provide asset management for, we've just added it recently, and recently, like within the past week. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that does. You've got Casey Cove on here, which is a property, Pierce Education property down in Columbia. I know Terrence. Terrence and I are actually about to start another podcast together, which is not student housing related at all, but he has said nothing but great things about you guys, and they reached 100% just a couple weeks ago. So, and I know he's a big fan. So, yeah, I love it, and would suggest everybody get in touch with you guys for sure.
Sorry, I just saw a shout out in chat, so I just got excited about that. I was like, yay!
Absolutely.
It's one of the people that are here. It's their sister property, so extra hooray!
Extra hooray.
Anybody leasing up is extremely exciting every single year. So,
well, hey, let's guys, thanks so much again. We'll put together the rest of this in a separate call, and we'll merge it together with the first part of this and put it on our YouTube channel for sure, so we can continue this discussion. Guys, thanks so much.